For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss the security state of our public funds. Welcome, Professor. In speaking of alleged misuse of funds by intelligence officials, you say that intelligence resources sometimes have to be allocated to individuals whose identity cannot be divulged. But do we need to undercover agents in a democratic South Africa?
I mean, we could also ask, do we need an intelligence service? But I think that we must understand that you do need to safeguard the security of the state or the security of the democratic institutions of the state. And you need information about threats. Now, it's a bit like an investment analyst. If you say, look, I want to invest my money in this, that, and the other, or if you have millions and you want to invest it, you have to analyze what is likely to happen. What are the dangers to the rand or to investments? If this happens, if that happens, what effect will it have on my investment? Now, in the same way, intelligence agents have to be able to provide what they call a threat analysis. What is there that may arise that will compromise elements of our social system, our state institutions, our democratic institutions? Now, a case would be Ebola, Ebola virus. We now have it, but should intelligence not have provided advance warning? A very good intelligence system in the United States, in Britain, in South Africa, should really have known that this was likely to happen. Because nothing happens in a vacuum. There are always signs. And you know, when you look at something that looks apparently stable, you just sometimes leave it. But what intelligence is supposed to see is seeds that can grow into something that is dangerous. Now, the way they can provide information, and it's obviously not only about Ebola, it's about international crime, drug trafficking, terrorism, all sorts of things like this. Now, you can use what is called open source intelligence. In other words, published information. Now, let's say you wanted to assess, is Botswana stable? You can get a lot of information from published documents. But there's some things that are secret, and you're not going to be able to find out about these things unless you have people operating undercover. Now, it's desirable to get as much as possible through open sources, because to get someone to infiltrate some gangster group or some state or something like that is quite expensive, because that person has to, let's say you want them to go and find out things in Zimbabwe. That person, you have to pay for them to have a cover, some business or whatever it is. You've got to pay for them to live in a particular way. If you want to infiltrate, say, the president, you can't be dressed in jeans and tackies. You actually have to be dressed in a particular way that fits the profile that you give yourself. So I do think that we need intelligence operatives, and I'm not sure, I cannot assess to what extent you need secret ones. But coming with those officers is the need for integrity. And what we have seen in the case of Dhlamini and now in other cases is that people who get this money to fund undercover agents instead use the funds to fund themselves, or they give the name so-and-so. They say A. Ndlovu is who's getting this, but that person may not exist. and the way the funds go, you don't want to you don't want to endanger the undercover agent, so the real name is not known to many, it's known to as few people as possible. So the possibility for abuse, for fictitious people, is actually fairly strong. So I think one does need it, but we need to ask ourselves how we can build the type of integrity and respect for the Constitution on which we depend for the good functioning of these institutions.
You also deal with the prosecution system. How do we restore confidence in the system of prosecution and the police?
See, this is again a situation where people are given weapons, the power to bring you before the court, or the power to arrest you and to use force against you. And we have to trust that people will act in good faith. And one of the most serious commentaries of the failure of post-apartheid South Africa, amidst many successes, one of the failures is that people have not started to view the police as people who they can trust. In a place like Britain, you can go to a policeman in the street, ask the policeman, how do I get from here to there? The policeman looks quite a harmless person. Now in South Africa, police are not harmless. They carry guns, and when they stand over you, you don't know if they're going to ask you for a bribe or whether they're going to just ask you for your license. And we also have cases in the Sunday Times, just on one page. Carmel Rickard wrote a story about 3 different rape cases. And what happens with the police, if the police do something to you, you have difficulty proving it because you're on your own, and they can back up one another's stories, so that it's very hard to bring a case against the police. But in one case, some woman managed to show that she was raped in the police cells, and she managed to get medical evidence that supported her version, and she managed to sue the police. But she was not able to get the police and the prosecution system to prosecute them. So we have a problem as citizens, that we may be wrongfully arrested, or it has happened that someone has sought refuge with the police from some abuse, and they've got into the police's hands, the police have abused them again. Now, not everyone does this. Police do a very dangerous job. They die on the job. But something is lacking in the ethic that we've communicated to police, to the prosecuting system, which is in disarray, where people are, the things that they've said about the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, what the courts have said, show that people are not conducting their job in accordance with the professional ethics that is required of them. Now, we need to find a way of restoring this. We as citizens need to be learning what our rights are and spreading these, trying to compel organs of state to abide by the responsibilities and the ethics required of them.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about the security state of our public funds. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.